Today I have my first impressions of the team associated Reflex 14B. As the name implies, this is a 14th scale off-road buggy. It's also available as the Reflex 14T, which is the truggy version. The truggy and the buggy are they are exactly the same, even down to the spoiler. Literally the only thing different about them are the bodies, so basically pick which one looks better to you and go with that one. Everything else would be literally identical. I went with the buggy version because I like the color scheme of the buggy much better, as well as the overall looks of it much better. So it's a very nice looking buggy, but before we dig into the buggy, let's see what this thing comes with. It comes with this little manual here, and it shows you how to kind of get started with the ready to run, as well as like a full build manual for when you need to work on it with all the part numbers. So that's very cool and very, very useful. That's something you're going to definitely want to keep around. It comes with these extra decals you can use to kind of decorate the spoiler and the nose cap there. A little wheel nut wrench, a random assortment of servo horns, a bind plug, and then a bag of extra parts. It looks like there's like shims in there, some shock parts, extra spur gears in there. I don't know if that's a optional gearing. That's something I'll have to look into, but that is included. And then a little servo horn in case you want to use a different servo. And then finally, it does come with the Team Associated XP120 2-channel radio. So coming back to the buggy, let's talk about the looks of it first. It has a very nice paint scheme to it, with the checkered flag, the military green. The overall has like a old warbird kind of Air Force, like military craft kind of look to it, which I think is very cool and a pretty interesting look for a buggy, I think. The fuselage here does look kind of airplane-esque, so I think it makes sense. Overall, I think it's a very nice looking body. The body also encapsulates the chassis very nicely, so it's also going to act like a little bit of a dust cover, which is also very nice. And as you'll see when I take the body off, the nose cap of the body and then the main body are separate bodies, so that allows the buggy to have a full length look without having to have this attached and being really awkward and kind of cumbersome to get the body on. You can just take the body on and off, and that's all very nice. I do wish the body was coated in a matte finish just to give it more of that military look, but that's something you can go and do yourself later, which is something I might do. And this body is also available in clear for about $20, so you can really paint it up in any color scheme you want with that. So that's something you can kind of look into if you're interested. The spoiler is not like sand, it's kind of like a flexible black molded plastic. I'm not sure what material that is, but it seems like it'd be pretty durable, so that's pretty cool. It's held in with a couple of plastic washers and some body clips. The wheels are just black dish wheels, which I really do like dish wheels on buggies. Gives it a very racy look, so I think the overall presentation of this is very nice. I'm personally not a big fan of the front shock tower coming in front of the view of the front windshield. But because this is supposed to be looking like a RC racing buggy, and a lot of RC racing buggies do have the tall front shock towers, it's something I can kind of live with and kind of ignore. So it's kind of whatever. And the more I look at it and the more I kind of think of it as a RC racing buggy, I don't mind the looks of it too much. So moving on to the features of the buggy, this does have a lot of features, which is very nice, especially for a mini RC. Unfortunately, when a lot of hobby grade RC manufacturers go release a mini vehicle, they tend to kind of cheap out because they expect it to be kind of like for like a little thing for like a child to play with or something. So they're usually priced pretty cheaply and have really basic features. But this does feel like it's a full like 8 scale buggy that's been scaled down and has like 8 scale buggy features to it, which is very cool. As far as I can tell, it's not really sourced from any like cheap Amazon or like eBay or like Banggood RC car. It seems like it's an actual proper manufactured unit. Though Thunder Tiger does own Team Associated, and the overall plastics and the build of it does seem kind of Thunder Tiger-esque, so I wouldn't be too surprised if Thunder Tiger sells this exact same platform under a different name and a different body or something. But anyway, let's actually talk about the features. So the first thing you can see are these tires, which have this kind of bar, like clay, and like spiked kind of hybrid design, kind of meant to be kind of like a jack of all trades kind of tire, I think. And they do also have foam inserts in them, which is very nice. And the tires are also very, very soft and very, very sticky, which is very nice to see, especially for an RTR, because usually with RTRs they tend to include very hard, long wearing tires, so you won't have to replace them very often. But that obviously comes at the cost of performance. So it's very nice that they included nice soft tires with this, and I'm very happy about that. They are also pre-glued and very well glued as well, so that should be very nice. The wheels are also 12mm hex, and overall like a touring, like 1/10 scale touring car or rally car wheel size, so it should be pretty easy to find replacement wheels and tires for this, and you can also always just go with the stock replacements as well. Moving to the front and the rear, has oil-filled shocks, and they're very, very nicely set up out of the box. The damping's very nice, the spring rate's very nice, there's no bounce in it at all. Very nice, very well-tuned shocks. Even though they are plastic bodies, I do really like the way these are set up out of the box. I think it's to be expected of something from Team Associated. And speaking of the shocks, they are a threaded body. They are plastic, like I said, but they are threaded body, so you can adjust them if you would like. And they're threaded body front and rear, so that's also very cool. I believe there are aluminum versions of these shocks you can get if you want, but personally, I think they're just fine with the plastics for right now. I may go with the aluminums just for bling later on, but I think the plastic one should perform just fine for most applications. Speaking of that kind of racy design, all of the links on here are adjustable. So you have adjustable toe, adjustable camber. I don't know if caster is adjustable, but toe and camber definitely are, both front and rear. So that's also pretty cool. The shock tower as well as the A-arms also have some, not the A-arms, but the shock towers definitely do have points for adjustment. So lots of adjustment to kind of fine-tune this buggy for the surface you're going to be running at. So very cool there. And then taking the body off, as the shape of the buggy kind of implies, it is a four-wheel drive buggy. So you can see the drive shaft in the center here, Spur Gear mount here, and the center drive shaft has a nice like dust shroud on it, which is cool. Nice little servo with a servo saver, brushless motor system, reedy brushless motor system, 2.4 gigahertz, 4-channel radio, so you can plug in lights or something if you would like in there. The battery is not included with this, but I am running a little Venom battery in here, and it does have a Dean's plug. And then the servo, I think it's the same size as like the ones that the 1/16 scale Traxxas vehicles use. I will have to dig into that to confirm, so don't quote me on that, but that roughly seems like it's about the same size. So servo replacement should be pretty easy as well. And then the coolest part, I think, is especially for a mini buggy like this, is it does have a center diff. So you can see I can hold on to the front wheels and the buggy will still move. So that's very, very, very cool that this little 14 scale buggy has a center diff, because usually center diffs are stuff that even a lot of 10 scale four-wheel drive vehicles don't see. It's usually reserved for like 8 scale stuff, so it truly does feel like a 8 scale buggy that's been scaled down to 14 scale. The steering is also very smooth and has a little aluminum plate there, so that looks nice and also should be pretty durable as well. And then the overall build of this, the chassis is plastic and does have some flex to it, but it doesn't flex all that terribly. And the overall build quality of it is very nice. It has hex hardware throughout, so has a very quality build to it. So very happy about that. So as you can see from the bald front tires and then all the scratches on the chassis, this is clearly not like straight out of the box. I did run it a few times before making this video, just so I would have a better impression of it and have a little bit more useful things to talk about. So starting off, like I mentioned, the build quality of it is very nice. Nothing has really come loose or fallen apart or broken yet, and I have been running it quite hard for the past couple packs, and I even had a few tumbles with it, and nothing is broken. The body doesn't even have any scratches on it, which is partly due to how tall the shock towers are, so when it does flip over, the body never actually contacts the ground. It mostly slides on the top of the shock tower and the spoiler. And even so, there's very minimal wear there, so the plastics I think also are pretty good quality. Handling wise, because of the very well tuned shocks, the overall low center of gravity design, the soft tires, and also the center diff, the buggy handles wonderfully. It tracks very straight, it turns very well, has very good traction, and is very, very stable, and very rarely will ever flip over. The only time it'll ever flip over is if the tires kind of catch on the edge of a sidewalk or a crack or something. But on a flat surface, it shouldn't really flip over any. I did also take it on a couple jumps, and it also jumps very nicely, which is very important, I think, for a buggy to fly very nicely, especially when it has an airplane design to it. But it does fly very nicely, and the performance of it I'm very happy with. The speed of it is also very good. It's very, very fast. I would estimate it at probably high 20s or like low 30 miles an hour. It's a very, very fast buggy. But with that said, there are some complaints that I had with it. The speed, I think, comes at a cost of overheating. Just after a single 1000 milliamp hour LiPo pack 2S, this ESC will only take 2S, and which is about like 10 minutes of driving. The motor was very, very, very hot. It was about 75 degrees Fahrenheit outside, and just after normal running, not even any harsh running, and I ran it exclusively on very smooth, very flat asphalt. And even so, the motor went up to like 130 degrees Fahrenheit, which was very, very hot. And when I tried to run a second pack on it consecutively, the motor kind of lost performance, and the ESC kind of tried to protect the motor by attempting to go in and out of thermal shutdown. So I think the gearing might be a little bit too high for it. The speed is very nice, but I'd be more than happy to sacrifice some speed for a little better temps for the motor. The temperatures are something that's definitely pretty concerning about it. The ESC was also pretty warm, and I'm not sure why, but the motor was definitely very, very hot. So it is a buggy, I think, that you will have to kind of cool off after every pack or so. And I don't know if you'll be able to run it for very long on a very high capacity pack. So that's something you might want to watch out for so you don't burn out your motor. While we're speaking about the motor and the ESC, the stock settings of the ESC has the punch set very low. So it does have kind of like a rubber bandy feeling to the start of the throttle. The punch is very low. So, and I don't know if there's any way to really change that setting with the stock ESC. That is something else I might have to look into, or worst case scenario, I might have to, I may go and replace the ESC with like a Hobbywing unit or something like that. I believe that this one is a Hobbywing like OEM unit, but from what I've seen, like you can't adjust it with the same like Hobbywing programming cards or anything like that. So yeah, the overall performance of the electronics are pretty good, but some kind of complaints I have about it, like again the temps and then the kind of low punch setting. I think those are something that could be improved. Unfortunately though, the receiver I think works very well. I have no complaints about the receiver, never lost signal or anything, and very responsive. The servo is also surprisingly very, very good. It's very smooth, and the sound of it does sound like a Metal Gear servo. I'm not sure if it actually is, but the gears do sound Metal Geared. But whatever it is, it's very fast and very responsive, which is surprising for an RTR unit, especially on a mini vehicle, because a lot of RTRs tend to include very crap servos. So I'm very happy that they included an actually usable servo with this buggy. That's something you have to replace and upgrade right out of the box. The other thing, like I mentioned, was the front tires are quite bald, and that one is kind of the trade-off you get with getting softer tires out of the box instead of harder tires. They will tend to wear off pretty quickly, but also I think part of the problem is the way the diff is tuned. If you see here, the rear tires basically have all of its tread, but the fronts are like basically bald. So what that tells me is on full acceleration, the center diff is just diffing out, and most of the power are going to the front wheels, and the front wheels are basically spinning faster than the rears, which is causing the front tires to wear up so quickly. And that will also eventually wear out your center diff. So that's something else I would recommend is taking out the center diff and filling it with some sort of fluid. From what I've read, they only fill it with like grease, if anything at all. So you do want to fill that up with fluid, and it's guaranteed to drive much better. The nice thing about the front wheels having more spin than the rear though is that's what kind of helps it be very stable in a straight line, but it will come at a cost of front tires and your center diff. So something you want to kind of address pretty quickly, and something I will definitely address as well. The final thing that I'm kind of keeping an eye on for right now, it hasn't happened to me yet, but it seems like a lot of people have this issue where the buggy will actually chew up the spur gear. It is a metal pinion gear to a plastic spur gear, like a lot of RCs. But the teeth are very fine from what I've seen, so a lot of people end up kind of stripping out their spur gear. And there's no metal upgrade spur gear for it, unfortunately, so you are going to have to deal with the plastic ones. From what I've read and seen, some people have kind of figured that on like hard landings and stuff, sometimes the motor will kind of go off center because there's nothing bracing it underneath. It's kind of floating under there. So some people have kind of made braces from underneath the motor to kind of keep the motor from moving around, which seem to have helped for some people. Also, generally, like, since it doesn't have a slipper clutch or anything, landing with the throttle on like very high traction surfaces is definitely going to strip out your spur gear. So some things I'm going to kind of keep an eye on. Again, it hasn't happened to me yet, but I will update you guys on what the situation is with that. And like I showed you in the beginning, it did include that extra spur gear. I will try to figure out what that extra spur gear is for, and if it's a viable replacement in case this one goes out. Who knows, Team Associated may have seen all the complaints and might have included an extra spare spur gear. Who knows? One thing I forgot to mention in the beginning when I was talking about the features is it also does have metal drive shafts, and they are universals in the ends towards the steering. So that's very nice. The rears are just straight dog bones, but the fronts are universal, so that gives it a lot of steering. So pretty nifty there. But overall, I'm enjoying the buggy immensely so far. And so as far as plans for it, I do have the Hobbywing ESC motor combo in case the stock one goes out. So that may go in at some point if this one goes out. I have like an actual full-length battery for it coming in, so I don't have to use the spacer, but these batteries have been running just fine, so that's whatever. Again, I'll look into kind of the gearing situation, so like the motor doesn't overheat as much. I'll probably also look into getting a heatsink for it, kind of trying to help that situation out. Maybe kind of venting the body a little bit to get some more airflow in there might help. We'll have to see what's up with that. I will definitely have to get new tires already, even though I've only run in for like 2.5 packs, because the front tires are bald. So that is something I will be doing. The body, this one I may end up spraying with some Tamiya flat clear to give it that flat look. And otherwise, maybe in the future I might even pick up the clear body and give it a custom paint scheme. Just throwing stuff around. But this body here, I did make one change to it. I did add a magnet here, so when I take the body clips off, I can just throw them on there, and that'll keep my body clips from getting lost, because it does use pretty tiny body clips. And I also tend to kind of throw my body clips at random places when I take my body off, and then end up losing them. So this kind of keeps me from losing it. So nice little easy mod there, just glued on what you do. Oh, speaking of the body, that also reminds me of something else I kind of changed, is the front body post. I ended up taking that off and rotating it 90 degrees. So the body clip will go in sideways. Out of the box it goes in straight, both front and rear goes in straight. The problem with that is the way that the shock towers sit and the body sits, it's very difficult to get the body clip in this way. So I simply just undid these 4 screws, took this whole kind of brace part out, and this front body post is held in with 1 screw. You take it out, flip it around, and then just reinstall everything. And that should work much better and make things much easier for you. I also replaced the body clips with bent ones from Losi. Though you can just simply bend your stock ones if you want. That just makes it easier to take on and off. Just some quality of life stuff. But again, I'm very satisfied with the buggy so far. I paid $200 for it, which is a little bit high for some people, But for all that comes with it, all the features it has, the way it drives, the brushless system, I definitely think it's a pretty good deal at $200. It used to be $180 before all the inflation and the price hikes, but even at $200, I think it's well worth it. And if you are an absolute beginner and need to have no equipment, you can get the lipo combo with this for I think like $220 or $230, which I think is still a pretty good deal. So, pretty long video, but that's my first impressions of the Team Associated Reflex 14B. Look out for more videos on my channel about this buggy, because there will definitely be more. I am enjoying it immensely, and I can't wait to show you guys some running footage of this. But anyway, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.